Welcome back. Sorry about the cutoff. We'll pick up. Gideon is coming through this city, this town, where Jacob came into contact with God when Jacob wrestled the angel. And he comes through, and the people act as if God is not around. Because here's a man of God, Gideon, and they also refuse his men any sustenance. So these two instances. And then how does Gideon respond? Well, the same way he responded to the people of Sukkoth. When I come again in peace, meaning when he's established peace, I'm going to break down this tower. So we can assume that the people there had built a tower and it was kind of like a symbol for their town, a place of pride. And so Gideon says, you shouldn't have messed with me. And this is when we kind of see Gideon start straying. And instead of just attacking the Midianites as God told him, now he's using this task for personal vengeance. But we'll keep going. Verse 10. Now Zebah and Zalmunna were in Karkor with their army, about 15,000 men, all who were left of all the army of the east. For there had fallen 120,000 men who drew the sword. And Gideon went up by the way of the tent dwellers, east of Moab, Jogbah, and attacked the army, for the army felt secure. And Zebah and Zalmunna fled, and he pursued them and captured the two kings of Midian, Zebah, Zalmunna, and he threw all the army into panic. So now it keeps going, they're chasing them, and now things are happening. Then Gideon, the son of Joash, returned from the battle by the ascent of Heres, and he captured a young man of Sukkoth and questioned him. He wrote down for him the officials and elders of Sukkoth, 77 men. He came to the men of Sukkoth and said, Behold, Zebah and Zalmunna, about whom you taunted me, saying, Are the hands of Zebah and Zalmunna already in your hand, that we should give you bread to your men who are exhausted? He took the elders of the city, and he took thorns of the wilderness and briars, and with them taught the men of Sukkoth a lesson. And he broke down the tower of Penuel and killed the men of the city. Gideon is really, he's upset. He's doing some pretty damaging stuff here. Now, verse 18. Then he said to Zebah and Zalmunna, Where are the men whom you killed at Tabor? They answered, As you are, so were they. Every one of them resembled the son of a king. And he, Gideon, said to them, They were my brothers, the sons of my mother. As the Lord lives, if you had saved them alive, I would not kill you. So he said to Jether, his firstborn, Rise and kill them. But the young man did not draw his sword, for he was afraid, because he was still a young man. Then Zebah and Zalmunna said, Rise yourself and fall upon us. For as the man is, so is his strength. And Gideon arose and killed Zebah, Zalmunna. He took the crescent ornaments that were on the necks of their camels. So here we have Gideon. He's taking Zebah and Zalmunna, and he takes them, he shows them to the men of Sukkoth and Penuel. He says, Look, I've got them. You remember me? And he followed through on his word. Gideon is very much ready to follow through on his word when it means doing evil. But he started out as a man who was very unsure. But now he's sure. And he's sure in the damage that he wants to do for these towns, not giving them supplies, needs for his men. So he finds Zebah and Zalmunna, and they confess to killing his brothers. They said, we killed these men because they appeared as you. They were sons of a king, and so we killed them all. These were Gideon's blood brothers. So then he avenges their death. But he doesn't first do it immediately. He turns to his oldest son. He turns to his son and says, Hey, son, go ahead and kill them. Interesting, but you see this in movies, you see this depicted in history and things like that, where Gideon's trying to, I don't know, what's he trying to do with his son? To strengthen him, I remember the scene from the movie Fury with Brad Pitt and the tank commander, and they have a green soldier who's driving, or who's like the front man for the tank, shooting the gun in the front, or I can't remember if he was the pilot for the tank. But they need Brad Pitt as the tank commander. He knows he needs rough soldiers. And so they catch a German soldier and they force this new green soldier to kill this prisoner of war. They put a gun in his hand, they put him up to him, and they say, kill him. And he refuses. And Brad Pitt grabs him with his hand on the gun, and he makes him kill, to roughen him up, to dull his senses toward death. Maybe that's what Gideon is trying to do with his son. That's what appears. And his son is too young. He's afraid. He doesn't want to. His son, what's his name here? Jether, his firstborn. He didn't because he was still a young man. And then Zebah and Zalmunna, it's almost like they mock Gideon. They say, rise yourself and kill us yourself. Be a man, right? Kill us yourself. For as the man is, so is his strength. So they're really kind of mocking Gideon. Hey, you're making your son do this. Why don't you do it yourself if you're such a big man? And Gideon does it. Walks up, kills them. Done, dead. There they are. And then he takes the ornaments, the crescent, right? The moons. These are pagans. They would be worshiping the stars, the moon, the sun, and things like that. So he takes those, and they're his. Verse 22, Gideon's ephod. Then the men of Israel said to Gideon, rule over us, you and your son and your grandson also, for you have saved us from the hand of Midian. Gideon said to them, I will not rule over you, and my son will not rule over you. The Lord will rule over you. And Gideon said to them, let me make a request of you. Every one of you give me earrings from his spoil, for they had golden earrings because they were Ishmaelites. And they answered, we will willingly give them. And they spread a cloak, and every man threw in it the earrings of his spoil. And the weight of the golden earrings that he requested was 1,700 shekels of gold, besides the crescent ornaments and the pendants, the purple garments worn by the kings of Midian, besides the collars that were around the necks of their camels. And Gideon made an ephod of it and put it in his city, in Ophrah. And all Israel whored after it there, and it became a snare to Gideon and to his family. So Midian was subdued before the people of Israel. They raised their heads no more, and the land had rest for 40 years in the days of Gideon, right? Again, that mention of 40 days of rest, 40 days of Sabbath, okay? But you can almost see already they have the rest, and they're already starting to come down. Gideon's behavior of killing these soldiers and these people who refused to give him sustenance and his people. But then also it says that Gideon made an ephod, an article of clothing, using the gold and things that he had. But where did all that gold come from? Well, it came from the spoils of the victory, the people of Israel. So they came to Gideon, as we see here in verse 22. They said, hey, rule over us. Be our king. And Gideon says, no, I'm not going to rule over you. Why? I mean, it seems as if that this would be a good man for the job, that God would want him to do it. Well, Gideon, he says, no, not me. I'm not going to rule over you. The Lord is going to rule over you. Now, I contend, this sounds pious, right? No, I will not rule over you. The Lord will. Was their request sinful, asking for a king? Oh, I don't think so. Maybe, it could be. And maybe Gideon is saying the right thing by saying, no, the Lord is your king and he will rule over you. Maybe Gideon is saying the right thing. Or could Gideon be saying the wrong thing? If they're wanting a king, maybe he should have been their king. In either way, Gideon doesn't want the responsibility of being a king, but what does he want? He wants the pay. He wants the money. He says, okay, folks, just give me all your gold. He made an article of clothing of some sort with all the gold, and it became a snare for everyone, right? It became a false god, right? And here then begins the downward trend again. So they took all the gold that they had, and Gideon made an ephod with it. And they had rest. Okay, in verse 29. Jerubbaal, the son of Joash, went and lived in his own house. Now Gideon had 70 sons, his own offspring, for he had many wives. And his concubine, who was from Shechem, also bore him a son, and he called his name Abimelech. And Gideon, the son of Joash, died in a good old age, and was buried in the tomb of Joash his father, at Ophrah of the Abiezrites. As soon as Gideon died, the people of Israel turned again and whored after the Baals, and made Baal-berith their god. And the people of Israel did not remember the Lord their God, who delivered them from the hand of all their enemies on every side. They did not show steadfast love to the family of Jerubbaal, that is Gideon, in return for all the good that he'd done to Israel. So now we have his Jerubbaal. He contended with Baal, right? That name come up again. And now it talks about the end of his life. Now Jerubbaal did not want to be a king, but indeed he lived as one. He accepted all the people's offerings, right, the gold, and he set himself up as king. Maybe he just didn't want the responsibility of it. But he then also took as many wives as he could find, had a concubine, had a son with him. And what did he name the son? You see Abimelech, right? You see A-B in Hebrew, Abba, you recognize that? That means father, right? And then Melech, which is king, right? Or Melech. He named his son, "My father is king." Kind of strange for a guy who doesn't want to be king. So Gideon wants all the benefits of being king. He even names his son, "My father is king," but he doesn't want to be the king. Doesn't want to lead the people, maybe. I don't know. But he had a good reputation. Everybody still liked him. Everyone still thought highly of him until he died. And then they did not show their love for him in staying faithful. They did not follow the Lord. They didn't. Gideon does not have a good heritage in the people and following and staying faithful to God. So there you have Gideon. Starts out good, but then we see how he is not the Messiah. He is not the Christ. He does a lot of things that should open the people up to start recognizing and being ready to see in Jesus someone greater than Gideon in what he does. Gideon thought pretty highly of, but ends kind of on a bad note. And the people there too did not follow in his way. So you can kind of see here a little bit how power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. Gideon here gets the victories, and maybe it goes to his head. And he wants the money of being a king. He wants the power, but he says, "I'm not going to rule over you." Interesting thing there. So that's Gideon. That's the end. Sorry again for the video cutting out, but I'm a pastor, not a tech guy, not audio video. But nonetheless, I appreciate you following along. Pray this Bible study is of benefit to you, and pray the Lord's blessings on your day. And we'll pick up on Judges chapter 9 with Abimelech. "My father is king," the son, and we'll see where things go from there. The Lord be with you.